John chapter 4, verse 24 says, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship in truth. So we're going to talk a little bit today about worshiping the Lord in the Spirit. And so a lot of people nowadays, they go to church and they conform their flesh to do what God says to do, and they think that they're right with God because of it. That's conforming their flesh. But God must be worshiped in spirit and in truth. God says, you draw nigh to me with your lips, but your heart is far from me. Worshiping God. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1. I desire for the Lord to speak. You guys don't need to hear what I have to say, but we need to all hear what the Lord has to say. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1. Woe unto the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. Mankind is constantly trying to cover with a covering that is not of God's Spirit. And he calls that adding sin to sin. Just like Adam and Eve in the garden cover their sin by covering their nakedness. Let me flip over there in Genesis chapter 3. Lord, whatever he wants to do, that's his plan. And if what Josh said this morning, you hear 50% of what he says, and then you retain 5% of that, something like that, that's bad. No wonder the Lord wants me to repeat myself. So let's catch some of it. Even if you catch something today, the Lord's got something for you today. Genesis chapter 3. If you go to Genesis chapter 2, verse 25, this is talking about Adam and Eve. It says, and they were both wife and were not ashamed. This is when God created man and woman in the garden, and they were not ashamed, although they were naked. But if you go forward let's go to verse 4. And the serpent said unto the woman, not surely die. Now God has already told Adam and Eve that they die if they eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Satan said, ye shall not surely die. Satan is still up to his tricks, saying the same thing. God says one thing, Satan says another. Then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good. With her own pride, her own desire to be something special, to be uplifted, to exalt mankind, good and evil. Verse 6, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to eyes, a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of. Satan's deceiving this same way today. And did eat her husband also, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew the naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. So mankind's natural response to a problem is to fix it. That's what they did. They realized that they were naked. But what happened is they just became sinful. The spirit is sinful. You can fix that flesh up all you want, but you have a spiritual